guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Gina and I am a mum of two. Today's video is going to be the new mum tag for 2019. So I'm going to go through some questions from the mum tag. I think there's 15, so we will get started on those. So the first question is, what is your favourite mum hack? I don't really have a mum hack. I think because I adopted my children. My two children are both adopted. We adopted Enya at 15 months and we adopted Leo literally a couple of days before his 3rd birthday. So I haven't really got any baby mum hacks or anything because I didn't obviously have them until they were kind of 15 months was the youngest. I haven't really got any hacks really, so my most embarrassing mum moment, it was actually last week in the swimming baths. I take the kids for swimming every week, and I was in the changing rooms and Leo said a very, very mild swear word, and he's obviously heard me say it to the dog, and like I say, it's a very mild one. I was so embarrassed, I could feel my cheeks burning, and you know, I obviously said to him, like, you know, that is a naughty word, we shouldn't use that word, and blah blah blah. And he was embarrassed too. He did go actually bright red as well. But every mum in the changing room turned around and looked at me, and I was like mortified. And then I was like, what did you just say? Because I just couldn't quite believe it. And then Enya repeated it, so it was even worse. So yeah, that is my most embarrassing mum moment. I can't think of any others. I wasn't happy. And it was very embarrassing, but I literally nearly died. I was so embarrassed. Bright red, burning face, every mum at me. So yeah, I'm sure you've all been there. So third question, what part of the day do I love the most? Now it would depend really. I quite like sort of mornings, when they're obviously at home. I quite like mornings with them because I like it when they've had the breakfast and they like to play and run around and stuff like that. I quite like that time, running up to lunchtime. Afternoons can get quite hectic, so yeah, I like mornings because they're quite chilled. Obviously when they're at home, when they're at school, they're obviously rushed and off. But yeah, I like mornings. I sort of get more interaction from them in the morning. Sometimes in the afternoon they are wired, especially after school and stuff like that. They're quite wired. So yeah, I do like mornings with the kids. And what part of the day do I like least? I like least tea times, because tea times can be a real battle in this house. And you kind of goes wild come 5 o'clock. So we sort of get tea and she just goes on an absolute craze. She doesn't be quiet, she's running wild, she's bouncing off the walls, she's fighting with her brother. Tea times can be quite a struggle to get them to focus, to eat, to calm down, especially if Enya's been at nursery. She can be absolutely bouncing off the walls and also tired out. Now she gets tired and she gets ratty and she gets wild, and the screeching and the screaming and all that kind of stuff, and we can't calm her down. So tea times are the times I really don't like, especially when Enya's been in nursery, because she can get out of control, and she's at that stage at the minute. She's a bit of a teenager now, and she can kick off and demand quite a lot at the moment. She's acting a little bit bratty, spoilt bratty, princessy, where she wants everything. She won't let Leo have anything. She wants her own way all the time, and obviously she can't. And then she kicks off because she gets frustrated because she can't, and we won't let her. And it's a bit of a, like I say, tea times not great. So yeah, tea times are my worst time of the day. Baby name we didn't agree on. We've actually been talking about this today because we went swimming and there was a little girl with the name that I wanted. Now we didn't get to pick our kids' first names, and we obviously, the name was Enya and Leo, so we didn't get to pick those names. We did actually get to give them middle names, and one of the middle names I wanted for Enya was Scarlet. I still love it now. I love that name. And there's a little girl actually at swimming that's called Scarlett, and she was going, I like that name. And I said to her that I wanted that name and Daddy didn't, and she's like, I like that name. So yeah, Scarlett or Harriet, those were my two favourites for Enya. And Leo, I actually wanted Dean for his middle name, but when we put it all together it didn't really sound great. So yeah, Dean was the other one, and Ian really didn't like that at all. So yeah, Dean. Ian really didn't come up with a lot of names. He sort of liked the ones that I liked, so there wasn't much disagreement on any that he liked. But like I say, Scarlett and Dean were my two picks for middle names, and Ian didn't really like either of them, so we didn't pick either. So yeah. So something I bought and never used when the kids were little. So obviously we didn't know what age range our kids were going to be when we went into the adoption process. And when we found out we were having Enya, and she was, I think she was 13 months, 14 months when we found out we were going to be getting her. Everyone said to me, if you use a baby carrier, it bonds you very, you know, quite a lot, because you're skin on skin and you're quite close together all the time. So I thought, because, and she was very little as well, both the kids were very little, so she was sort of, I think she was in 6 to 9 month clothing at the time, and I thought, because she's so little, I'll get a baby carrier and then I'll have her close with me all the time. And I used it once, I think, and that was to try it on around the living room with her in it, and other than that she just wouldn't have it. She wanted to be independent, walking around, she was toddling around, so yeah, she didn't really want to be carried, especially in anything like the harness type of thing. She's always wanted to be a bit of a free. Leo would have done it, because Leo did fit in it as well, but I thought, being 3, I didn't want to get him in that routine of being carried, because he needed to build his strength as well, because he again was quite little. I wanted him to carry on walking, because he was walking all the time then. He wasn't in a pram or pushchair or anything, so I wanted to keep him walking. So yeah, and you never even used the pram either, to be fair. That was one of the other things that was a waste of time, was the pushchair, because we barely ever used them, because the kids just love to walk, so we walked everywhere. 3 hospital bag must-haves. Obviously I've not done the whole birth hospital bag type thing, but if I was to go and have my own baby and go to hospital and blah blah blah, other than everything for the baby, obviously something for me, I would have taken a good book, I would have taken a phone charger to make sure I had my phone, and I probably would have taken some kind of snacks, because no one likes hospital food, do they? So yeah, hospital snacks. Obviously I'm probably missing out loads of things that mums that have given birth are probably going, you need this when you've given birth, but obviously I don't know that, so I'm just going off what I would have thought I would want now. But like I say, there's probably things that I would need if I'd given birth that I wouldn't even think of right now. So yeah. Are you a routine mum or are you a go with the flow mum? I am a go with the flow mum. I do like the kids to have certain routines, but we are quite flexible. Some days we will say we're going to go somewhere and we don't. We change plans quite quickly. We'll go out somewhere on the spur of the moment. Sometimes we'll be in the house and the kids will be thinking they want a drama day, and then it'll be the next thing I'm like, come on, no, we're going out, or vice versa. The kids will think they're going out, and then the weather's changed and I've gone like, come on, we'll have a movie day and we'll get in our pyjamas and we'll have some popcorn and some films and stuff like that. So yeah, I am quite a go with the flow. I don't have set days or times or anything like that for certain things like baths or meals or anything like that. I don't really have anything like that. The only thing I have a routine with realistically is wake up times and bed times, especially when school's on, not so much obviously when it's off. But yeah, pretty much go with the flow. And I think you have to kind of adapt, especially when you've got quite strong personalities with your children as well. So what type of labour did I have and what pain relief? I didn't have any, luckily enough. Yeah, so obviously I can't answer that one because I've never done it and I never will. So have you ever been mum shamed? I've had the tuts and the eye rolls and the looks and stuff when especially more so with Enya, to be fair, when Enya's kicked off having a tantrum, because she's always been the strong-willed one. She's always been quite temperamental, and she would throw a strop if you said no to her for something. Say like she's just about to have a dinner and she wants a chocolate bar and I've said no. There would be a full-on meltdown, screaming, carrying on, kicking, stamping, that kind of thing. So yeah, I have had the tuts and the eye rolls and stuff like that, but I've never had anyone actually say anything to me. I don't think I'd be responsible if I did. I think I would tell them to do one. So yeah, I've never really had anything like that really. I do get a few looks at the school gates because Leo is quite emotional, quite sensitive. He does need a little bit of extra care because, you know, emotionally he is quite young for his age, and sometimes he will cry over nothing, or if he wants to stay with me he'll cry. Even now, we're nearly at the end of his school year, he will do that, things like that. And I can see some of the mums a bit like, you know, toughen him up type of stuff, but obviously they don't know the circumstance, they don't know, you know, what's happened, or they don't know that he's adopted. Most of the mums at school don't know he's adopted or anything like that. They just think that he's a bit of a mardy bum. So yeah, I've had those looks, but as I say, no one's ever said anything to me, and I would tell them to do one if they did. So biggest challenges since being a mum, just bonding with them really. Like I say, because they're both adopted, bonding with Enya was the hardest, because she had a foster mum from 3 months old, and she was basically like her birth mum really. She'd sort of looked after her from 3 months old, and she called her mum and stuff like that, and it was really hard for her to trust me and to take to me, because all she wanted was the mum that she'd always known, and she didn't really want me. Whereas Leo, he hadn't had one carer in particular that he'd taken to, so he was quite he bonded quite well. But Enya was the challenge really, was to get her to trust me, to want to be coming to me. She would always go to Ian because she'd never had a father figure in her life, so it was a novelty for her. She would always go to Daddy rather than me, and it kind of stung a little bit, especially because it was, you know, so long on us waiting to have children. But yeah, that was the biggest challenge, is getting close to Enya. And I think it was, we adopted her at 15 months, and it was probably about a month off her second birthday that we really bonded, and then we were inseparable, where she would not go anywhere without me. She was constantly crying for mummy. She wouldn't go to anyone else. She wanted to hold my hand all the time, which obviously I loved. But yeah, that was my biggest challenge, was getting over that, and it took a while, but she did eventually. They obviously know they're adopted, they know all about where they've come from, but to me, to them and to me, we're just family, you know. So yeah. Biggest piece of advice given as a mum. The biggest piece of advice I was given as a mum, probably like, don't sweat the small stuff. We were told that quite early on with the adoption process, was kind of let things go. Don't worry too much if something's not going to happen. Don't worry too much if the kids don't want to do something. Always try and move on. If they don't want to do something, just move on. So if, you know, if something happens that they don't want to do, I don't kind of push them on it. If they do something out of turn, they're obviously told about things in the beginning. I kind of let it go a little bit because they were adapting to where they've been and where they're from and where they were coming to, and bonding and stuff like that. So yeah, that was kind of the best advice given as an adoptive mum, was don't sweat the small stuff. You cannot change a child that is already in kind of, they had their own minds, they were their own people when we brought them home, and eventually, like now, they follow our rules. They you know, this is their way of life now, whereas in the beginning they kind of had to adapt. We kind of had to adapt to them rather than the other way around. So yeah. And best piece of advice to give to a new mum is probably just treasure every second. I look back now, even a year ago, and look at Enya and I feel sad. And I kind of feel sad that I missed out on those first sort of 15 months with her. I think just to treasure every minute, really. They grow up so fast. It's gone so quick since we brought them home. It's been 2.5 years now, and just to treasure every minute, really, because they grow so fast. I look at Anya now and she's, you know, she's a little girl. She's no longer my little toddler, my little baby. She's a little girl, and she's going to school in September, and it's crazy. And yeah, so just treasure every single second. Keep them close to you as much as you can for as long as you can, because they will soon want to be pushing away from you, and it's going to be sad, but it does happen when they get their own friends and they want to do their own thing. So yeah, just treasure every second and be as close to them as you can for as long as you can. And who is my mum crush? Who do I love? I actually it's actually a YouTuber, and it is Mrs. Meldrum, and I watch her videos all the time, and I just think she's an amazing mum. I think she's happy-go-lucky. I think her children are impeccably mannered. I think she does everything she can for those children. I think she works damn hard for her kids and her family. I think her kids are amazing. They're talented. They are, you know, they're a credit to her, really. And, you know, baby Poppy, and she's grown into a little girl now. Yeah, and I just kind of wish, she's my mum crush, really. If I could be any mum, and I want to be any mum, or like any mum that I've ever seen, she would be the one that I'd want to be more like. So yeah, Mrs. Meldrum is my mum crush. So if you like this video, please give me a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe by hitting the red button, smash the bell button to be notified, and don't forget to follow me on all my social media. And I will see you next time for another video. Thanks for watching. Bye!